Well, well, well. Hello and welcome back. Oh, it's awkward. Let's hide this for a moment. That's not how it was supposed to start, guys. Give me a moment. There we go. Now this should be visible. As you can see, the plan for today. Oh, you might not see the plan, but as you can see on the screen, today we're going to be drawing from the reference of a Leiden street. So first of all, let me welcome you all to the stream. Welcome everybody. Hope you're having a good Sunday. Let me know if the sound is fine and you can hear me well. It's a little bit work in progress mode as I'm updating my tools for streaming, so I hope it all works out. But what I have for you today is this lovely image from today's visit to the city of Leiden. We were sitting in a cafe on the canal and I found this little street across the canal very charming, with this church on the background and the bridge and lantern and Dutch houses. Hello helicopter and hello hummingbird. Helicopter says it's pretty quiet. Oh, interesting. Okay, now at least this part is volume 200% and now it's fine. So the topic is a bit weird. Let's update this. Now this should be more correct. The chat is visible. Yeah, now this makes a little bit more sense. So, the image for today is this one. I will also post it to Discord if you want to use the same reference. If you don't, obviously you can pick your own. And hopefully the music part stream, as we always end the stream on some kind of improvisation. Hopefully it will work this time. With chat controlled music. So the way I usually draw street sketches and any other sketches is by trying to figure out what actually I want to have on the screen. So kind of what do I want to capture? And this is already first choice you as an artist get to make. Do you want to go far away from reality, or do you want to stay more or less within? So, you know, what I mean by that is you can draw these houses kind of how you see them on the screen, on the photo. You pick a different brush. Those are two different photos? What do you mean? Are those? What's different about... Oh, I see. Yes, the people... the people faces are slightly different, but I think the rest is the same. And the blue thingy or the boat? True, here you can see the boat a little bit more. But that's exactly my point, you know, especially when you're drawing live while sitting in a cafe, there are sometimes things happening that maybe would be cool to add to your image. So for example, this boat, it just passed once, but maybe I want to add it to my drawing. So the difference between kind of sticking to reality or not would be if we quickly just sketch this. No, you can either try to fit everything you want to fit into this frame. Then here's the bridge, yada yada, you get the idea. But maybe then you're like, you would need to fit in a lot of empty front here. So maybe you would rather kind of zoom it in a little bit, but then you might find yourself fighting for space on the sides. So the first choice to make is, do you want to be sticking to the photo composition, or are you okay with moving stuff around? So for example, you can say this bridge, if I paint it as it is, maybe it goes too far to the side, so we'll kind of move this whole house together with the bridge a little bit to the right, so the composition is a bit tighter perhaps. And then maybe the lamp normally would be kind of here, which maybe is something I don't want to do. And because you can see on the photo here, this corner of the lamp is just touching the edge of the house from this point of view. which is called a tangent, and it kind of sucks because it creates this weird interaction between the shapes. So a way to eliminate that would be to perhaps move this lamp a little bit to the side. Plus, because there was a marathon happening in the city, if I would draw exactly how I see, I would need to draw these bars and kind of cover everything with the grid, which maybe is something you want, but I certainly would rather avoid. So let's start over, but a little bit more. Also, this should be strange being. Time. Again. This should now. So, I'm trying to make the chat visible on the screen, but I'm not sure it is. Yeah. This is fine. Well, we'll see if chat works and if the MIDI can. But if it is, agree. Yes, chat. It looks like chat is not working. Thank you, Hummingberry, for checking. So, as I was saying before I got completely distracted, the first decision is what do we want to get into the composition. And just to allow myself some space, I want to frame the image a bit smaller than the canvas that I have. So I can say, for example, I want to I want to have it more of a tall image, I think, rather than like the photo format. And then I want this street to occupy the focal point here. So the bottom of this image would be, my horizon line is kind of in the bottom third here. And the thing that you see here on here, you know, this house at the end of the street, that one would be kind of in the right third of the picture. So somewhere here would be this. But we also know it goes all the way up. Maybe here will be this. And let's move this row, the connection between, not connection, this kind of roof line of this church at the end of the street. Again, it has this tangent with the roof of the house in front, which flattens the image and makes it weird. So let's just move it up a bit. This, and then we would be extra happy that we kept some space here, because then we can just move this edge of the image here. It all still fits. The other thing that I'm trying to pay attention to, but it doesn't always work, is angles of those lines. So because you're kind of trying to capture the general composition and how everything fits, it's important to keep an eye on those lines. So for example, this line of the house at the end of the street, it's not parallel to the street. This one, it's not parallel to the, not the street, to the horizon. So you would kind of put it more like this, I think. And you can also see that you can see the corner sticking out there. The other thing beyond the angles and the lines is the proportions of the shapes. So if you look at this house at the edge of the street again, it has this top section that is kind of squarish, but not really squarish. It's more tall than wide. So if we capture that correctly, maybe even more, then it would be easier to place everything else in the picture. So then you can see the next section on that house is almost the same in height, but a little bit actually less tall. And then the rest of the house is more or less going down. Also need to move the horizon line now because it's in the wrong place. The way I try to estimate proportions is very simple. You just look and try. So if you see this gray top of the house, as we established before, it's kind of a square but not. So we already have this line length of the top. We know that this one is a little bit shorter, and if you look kind of down from this bottom line of the house all the way to this line with archways, it's kind of half of the whole house. So from here to this line is roughly the same as from here to the very top of the line of the house. So if kind of from here to here is the same, should be the same as from here to the bottom. So we clearly see that we don't fit. Extend it a bit. So here. So we'll just add quickly some other parts of this house, just to have more reference points to check if the proportions are correct. But more or less, yeah. So now that we have this house sort of figured out, let's just do this little decoration here. So now that we have this house, we can estimate everything else. So we know that like there is this circular window there, and you can see that the line goes somewhere here. This circular window, and the roof is somewhere here, and the line is parallel to the other one. This one, not really parallel, but we can consider it parallel. And then you can see the other one is right above, and then the final line of the roof is like here. So that's how I try to estimate the proportions and where everything fits on the page. Then you can see kind of, you can try to estimate where would be the end of the roof. You know, if you see the thickness of this tower, you can kind of estimate that the roof goes the same length and maybe like 2/3. So kind of like here. And then there is this big window in the distance. So from here we can see where the rest of the things should sit. For example, this house in front, it almost, it has the same line as one of the lines we already drew. This one is a little bit horizontal because it's not at an angle. And here with the roof, there is window. And the other part of this street, which is fun, the other side, the opposite one. That one I like because it has this very strong diagonal line that sort of leads your eye into the distance. And you can see that this corner of the last house on the left side of the street is sort of on the same, it's kind of in the middle of the tower that we already drew, so kind of like on this vertical line over here. And height wise, the corner is kind of a little bit lower than this line, let's say. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it helps if you're trying to replicate reality. So then from this corner you just need to figure out what is the angle you're hitting. And it seems kind of like this, ultimately like this line that goes from this corner across all the houses. Obviously the houses are a bit different height, but they all have this line that goes into the horizon. And the end of this line, if you check, kind of goes here, I would say. So you can just kind of estimate this go this way, and then these houses will be kind of the ones at the end there. Will look pretty squished. You can even see that before you hit this line, the vertical line, you fit 2 houses. So that's how squished they are. You can also use the elements that you already drew. So for example, this window here, you can use it as guidance. So you see that the right side of the window is kind of almost matching the vertical line dividing the white house and the red house. So this line. So you can see that this line will be a bit to the left from it, and then the other one is kind of here, and the final corner of this last house is sort of here. So now that we have more or less all the elements in place, almost, let's also add the bridge, which again you can use whatever you have already drawn on the page to estimate where it should be. And you would see that the beginning of the bridge kind of corresponds with this line here, the vertical line of the our core building we're aligning everything to. and then it goes from here up. Wait, let's add some more lines for reference. So the first floor of this house in the front ends roughly here, and you can see that the top part of the bridge is next to the last house, almost at the top of this, so kind of here. So the bridge goes like this, kind of. Even more squished. Something along these lines. Art seems tricky. Okay. Hummingbird says, will you add the bridge as well? Bridge review. 9 out of 10 bridge. I am adding bridge right now. Let's wait until it's complete for the review. But it is a great bridge. Great bridge. Good review. So this kind of the bridge here, and we also know that at the bottom it has these thingies, supports for the bridge. There's also this water line, and then this side of the canal, and then the boat here. And we can add the lantern. Maybe we'll move it all the way to the right, kind of. Maybe the boat is the boat is a bit further in, so it's a bit more visible. The bridge seems tricky to add. I see it a bit lower, in 1/3 height. 1/3 height of the second house. Interesting perspective. Yeah, it's a bit more squished than what I had. Let's use the darker color here. It's more. Also, let's pick a brush. No, this one. Bigger. hope YouTube chat now works. Can you write something more, Humminberry? For the check. So this bridge is more. This. I don't think it works for YouTube, the chat. Oh no, look, it works. It works. It's alive. We should check on Twitch as well. If anyone watching on Twitch wants to write a comment. Would be nice. Test chat. Okay, it's a double chat. Overlaps. Really? I think it should be fine now. Oh, I see. There are some weird dots on the screen. You have a diamond? Where do you have a diamond? There's one. In Twitch you have a diamond. Oh, that's probably because you are VIP on Twitch. You're a very important viewer. Don't yet too much on Twitch. You haven't watched from Twitch for a while. Last time it was mostly YouTube. So now when we have this covered, um, let's add the darkest areas just for fun and know what to focus on. I feel like focusing on the darkest objects helps you plan the composition a bit better. Now we can sort of plan how we want to frame this. Let's pick some. So we want all of these, but I don't really like how it's framed. I sort of want a different framing. I want some more sky, maybe more sky. So let's move this bottom and this also down. Maybe even a bit more. Then we also have here some space for the tree. You see, we can add this beautiful thing at the back, the other part of the church that's sticking out here, but I don't think it's gonna be great addition. So, but having these branches here, leaves and stuff. Even though it probably wouldn't be there if we really crop the photo. I like to put the layers above the frame that I figured out in clipping mask, because then you can kind of do whatever you want in layers above or below, and it will all stay within the layer. That's pretty convenient. And I think for 3 layers probably would be enough. Maybe 4. Let's add the transparency to this one so it's not distracting. So we know, it's easier to start with the background here because you can just draw on top of it afterwards. So let's pick some of my, it's a blueprint now. You're right, it is the blueprint in all senses. Let's pick a custom brush, maybe this one. Maybe. Just add some clouds. Have any of you guys used Kara, the Instagram killer app, or whatever it was supposed to do? Because I don't really like AI generated images or artistic expression replaced by AI. I've got recommended Kara as kind of like anti-AI social media where people don't post, or the social media themselves are kind of against AIification of stuff. So I'm curious if any of you guys have used it and you had fun or some sort of success with it. Because to be honest, Instagram is pretty depressive place lately. I was talking with a friend yesterday, with a classmate of mine, and she said kind of an obvious thing, I guess, if you think about it, but was sort of a revelation to me, that posting stuff on social media is not growing, or it's not considered developing your channel or pushing content or whatever it is, because it's just having a channel, and pushing content or promoting or growing starts when you sort of start playing the game of the social media. So, like if you pay for advertisement, or you actively approach people to cross post or to post collaborations and stuff like that. And to me, that sort of wasn't obvious, as I found out in that conversation, that because as an introvert, it's everything you do outwardly feels like you're bragging, or you are being out there ultimately. But that at the end of the day, that's not enough. Like, just showing up is sort of the expected minimum, whereas to grow into something bigger, or to reach more people, you actually need to be even more outgoing or outspoken. There are also windows on this house at the end, but let's see if we'll have enough room for details there. That's another thing that you should kind of keep an eye on when you're drawing, is not adding too much details to areas where there shouldn't be. Showing restraint. Now on a new layer, let's do houses on the. They're kind of more yellowish white. I suppose. Just the first two. White and the rest not. There is one kind of brick colored, another kind of yellowish gray. And the last one is also who knows what color. The other thing that's missing from this street of houses is the shadows. And maybe we can just pick the color, like this gray color, kind of that has some sky in it. Basically, if we pick the shadow of the cloud, I think we can just use it for shadows of these houses. A bit more interesting. And almost white. Just completely. Add some shadows to the windows. And then this house on the right side is kind of just brick color, but darker than the house on the background. And it also has same sort of roof color. Just like directly. And it should have these also off-white and yellowish. First floor and frames around windows, and also this thing, whatever it's called, the thing between the roof and the wall. That one is also it's also kind of yellow. Couple of windows. Since we're already moving stuff around a bit, don't have to be too precious about the exact number of windows. So for example, this house on the left has 5 windows, but I only have space for 4, which means that I didn't pick the right size, but also who cares with this stage and scale. It's not an architectural blueprint, even though the background is blue. So don't have to be too precious about exact measurements, but it does help for realism to kind of keep it more or less consistent. Next time, we most likely will return to visually developing Sons of Atara, our new upcoming collectible card game in sci-fi fantasy universe. We ended last month on continents and how they interact with each other. Well, there was just one continent basically, but we figured out everything about it. Where are they? How does the wind flow? Where are the currents around it? Where are the mountains? How's everything connected? So that part is done, which means we can get more into the details of the cultures that live on that planet and all sorts of creatures, settlements, characters eventually. I sort of suck at drawing characters, so I'm dreading it a bit, and I'm not sure if we're gonna do it on stream or not. That still remains to be decided. At some point I had an idea for a stream series where we would explore a topic that I don't know anything about and try to learn it together. I wanted to call it Let's Suck Together, but so far I haven't mastered the format of it. So if you would be interested in something, some series like that, let me know. I will add some blue to those windows here and there, just to make them feel that they reflect the sky. I don't know how well it works, but and now the bridge, and in general the foreground, that be our final layer. Also, let's actually scale everything a little bit up. We would crop it. It also has this bright, almost white frame around it. It's worth adding. There's actually a bit more details here than meets the eye. There is something behind the window. And there is actually rain for the door. And now we can get to the finally bridge. So theoretically this bridge is kind of, well, I wanted to say it's also dark green, but it actually isn't. It's not dark green. So we can just actually make it just dark gray. I want to make it a little bit greenish because it has this moss on it. Well, I will go with greenish. something like this. And as long as these shadow lines are kind of parallel, I think we can get away with this. Maybe not super close to reality shape of it. Then the ground we can make a bit gray, a little darker, and a bit brighter. Kind of just sunlit gray wood planks, I think. Yeah, it is just very thin wood. And the same grayish color would be the supports for the bridge. But the lamp can make actually green is in reality very dark green. And I guess we can also, since we already are painting the foreground, we can put this blob of greenery in the corner. Some green spots from the sun. Also, let's not these rails for the bridge actually matter a lot. So, in position, because they kinda supposed to help bring everything together. By the nature of these rails, they're softly guiding the user's eye into the frame. And we can actually make the boat this same blue color as the sky for fun, but also because it's kind of cool. It's a very blue boat. Now we can finally hide the sketch and see what we have, and kind of work a little bit more on the details. And then I think after that we actually gonna call it stream from the visual point of view. But do not fear, it's not the end. And as always, a little improvisation on the Roland MC-101 is in order. You probably get very worried that there is gonna be no improvisation. Well, don't. Yeah. Let's actually change the brush. See if this mixed brush is good, because it kind of supposed to, this multi-brush, it's supposed to pick pigment from what already is planted on the picture. To create this sort of more natural painterly look, but who knows if it works. There. There is also a lamp on the other side, and there is a buttload of people sitting in front of this cafe, but nobody has time to draw people. So to get a gist of what's going on there, I'm just gonna create a new layer and add some, like, first I will add some shadow blobs there. I will use my trusty colorful brush that changes color every stroke. There is colorful, blunt, and wild. So if you can see, it does this sort of brushwork, which might seem to be pretty strange and unusable, and it kind of is, but sometimes it actually helps. You know, for example, if we pick a very dark desaturated color for this kind of distance, we can draw all sort of like these little shapes which will indicate, you know, different clothings in the shadow, different things. And then if we pick almost white something, it doesn't have a hue to shift because white is white in any color. Doesn't make sense really, the sentence, but I think you know what I mean. So we can just draw these shapes of the chairs. Maybe. Oh, the thing is with this brush, it does add, like, it changes the brightness as well. So even with 100% brightness, you still get these kind of colored blobs. And the brush that's called just colorful, that's not wild, it changes, it does the same but much more subtly, in a subtle way. So, sitting there. Okay. And this front also needs a little bit more saturation. Except the part that's in the Maybe add some more windows to this. Not just windows, but kind of just more indistinguishable details in the distance. Maybe there's something in shadow, maybe some red tint or something. That maybe there's these blinds here. And then at the very back we can also add some more details to this main structure back. This part is a little bit more warm actually. Almost not purple, but kinda desaturated on, say. These guys also need some love and details. Not too much because they're in the distance and don't want to add too many things in the distance, because that's usually not works and is kind of distracting unless you have a good deliberate choice that you justify. Let's add some more details to the walls. Maybe make warmer spots here and there. Maybe add some colder spots for areas in the shadow. It's important to zoom out time to time and see from afar what is missing. Is there something not entirely readable or something nice missing? For example, we can see that there is a tree here that don't have. And here. And also I'm missing the people that confused helicopter, right? Because the people here are different than on the picture that I've sent to Discord. By the way, speaking of Discord, if you don't know that there is Discord server, then you're missing out on a nice small community of people who like art. So come hang out, join if you can. I think we are most ready to do some music and wrap it up. I want to also maybe before that change the clouds a little bit. Not really change them, but just add a little bit more definition to the edges. So it's kind of but like when you look at the brightest spot on the cloud, I want you to feel like it has volume and so much detail and all these little fluffy things that protrude from the cloud, but actually don't want to spend too much time doing the detail cloud. So like with everything, it should give an impression but not leave some things for the brain to imagine and build by itself. Then the viewer is engaged. And if you want, you can even use the smudge brush to smudge those clouds a little bit. To blend the colors. Add some little bit more definitions to some of these areas. Probably not all, but some feel like they could use a little bit more lines. At some point though, it's also important to stop yourself from adding more stuff, because some artists are not gonna point fingers at themselves, tend to over complicate things, and that maybe too many details where less would be enough. So following that recommendation, I think with this we're kind of done with the sketch. And probably it means it's time to play some music, which that actually hopefully it works, but you never know these days. Oh, it's not the red. Let's try it. let's switch to the music camera and hope that it works without breaking this time. This is how it looks on the iPad. I think it looks better than what you saw on stream. But either way, that's not how we play music here. This is so if you know how this works. Oh, it's already happening. Well, let's see. We're not gonna debug it. But ultimately, the idea is that you could type something in the chat, specifically these controls that you maybe can see in the top right corner. And those controls would control track number 4. As you can see, it already controls track number 4, and this right side is triggering something pretty hard. Let's see if I can fix it, but every action on this Roland thing should trigger an effect on a certain track. Not really an effect, but trigger visualization. Okay, see what's happening here. As always, we will start where we left off on the previous stream. But it's an improvisation, so let's see where it will take us. I will try to fix something in the background, but let's see if it works. think with this, we finally arrived to the end of today's stream. I want to thank you all for joining today and stopping by. I hope you had fun. I'm sorry for technical difficulties here and there, but I hope to see you next time. Have a nice rest of your day, and bye bye.